Hello, everybody, and welcome to Authored Content. This is episode, I don't remember, some crazy number. Let's see if I can find it. Meanwhile, it's episode 5544.82. Because as Doug doesn't know yet, I have implemented a random numbering system for our
I was going to
episodes.
say it sounded more like a star date than anything else.
Because Ray has issues with my ability to count. So
He's always wrong in all the episode numbers. It's
now
hilarious.
I'm always right.
Yeah, you're right. Randomness works wonders.
So, I am Morton, as always, and with me I have my co-host, Ray Villalobos. And
Howdy.
back from hiatus, doing stuff, we have Doug Winnie.
Hello.
So, Doug, about a year ago, my friend Phil was on the show talking about Google Glass.
Yes, I remember.
I remember.
Mhm.
And in the meantime, Google Glass has become a thing.
Is this where you like play a clip from that previous
Yes.
one, where I
Yes.
basically was saying that I don't get it and that kind of thing?
That would be smart if I did that, but I'm
Mhm.
not that clever. So it's been a year. A lot of people have gotten this device, and the hyperbole has kind of come and gone, but it still seems to be something that people want to use, and I'm starting to see it all over the place. And now you actually made a Linda course about Google Glass specifically.
Mhm.
So you clearly have experience in the area.
I
Why
have
don't
used
you-
this. I crashed Christmas this year, wearing my Google Glass and actually filmed everyone opening up their Christmas presents this year with it. So yes, I've used it. So what do you want to know?
Well,
Just
you
my
know,
thoughts on it.
yeah, your thoughts, because now it's out of beta or something. Or
Right,
it's
it's-
in public beta,
it's-
so people can actually
Yeah,
get it.
technically it's an open beta now.
Yeah.
So all right, so I got it, and I started using it. So as everyone knows, I'm a Windows Phone guy, so it doesn't work with Windows Phone at all. So you can pair it. The only way you can have it work with it is if you pair it for Bluetooth and you set up your Windows Phone as a mobile hotspot, which then drains the battery like crazy. Similarly, that's also how you have to do it on iOS. So you have to do the mobile hotspot and you have to do Bluetooth. So to kind of get the right kind of Android and what Google wants to have be the right experience, I actually also got an Nexus 5 to go with it.
Right.
And when you install the Glass app and you get everything set up and installed on it, it actually works really great. There's everything that happens just through a Bluetooth connection, including data.
Mhm.
All right, so started using it. The instructional videos that they give you on Google are enough to kind of get you started, but it was really confusing as to how everything is organized, and I was really surprised when I launched it up that there were so few apps, because I keep hearing about like, oh, Google Glass has done this, and this new app to do this. I'm like, where are these things? And it's because none of them have been approved. They are all developer. You have to unlock the device just like you would, for an Android or an iOS phone in order to do development stuff.
Right.
So the actual, because I'm doing this course, so I wanted the course to be about with shipping. So
So nothing.
so there actually wasn't that much. They have Google Now, Google Play, Music, turn-by-turn directions, and all the things you would expect. So when I was using it, I felt super self-conscious. So much that I felt really uncomfortable. And I wore it out and about, I think, in San Francisco, probably 2 or 3 times. And what I didn't like about it is when people were interacting with me, they were interacting with Glass, they weren't interacting with me.
What?
They weren't talking to me. They weren't looking at me. It was such a huge barrier between myself and the speaker
Uh-huh.
that I could tell that they were blocked from connecting to me as a person because of the hardware.
Oh, okay. So the original complaint that people had about Google Glass, that when you are wearing it, you would be more focused on what you're seeing in the glass than what you're who you're talking to, was actually reversed. The people you were talking to are more focused on your glass.
They were more focused on the glass than actually me, and it was super weird. And you know, as the battery life was actually also a bit of a problem too. So it didn't really last too long. And ultimately, I just looked at this and I was like, you know, it's great hardware. The software is really cool. What you can do with it is actually very interesting. But I would never live every minute of my life with my phone in front of my face.
Right.
And the same thing applies with Google Glass. Just like I would never wear, unless you're Bono, sunglasses 24/7. But I would see this as, I saw it as something that would make sense in specific cases, but not something that I would wear every single day, every minute of the time that I'm awake.
Uh-huh. Very balanced approach. I actually have another friend who has made a point out of wearing glass at all times. And holy crap, this is distracting the first time you meet him wearing glass. But after a while, when you're like, oh yes, that piece of the hardware is now part of him permanently, then then you just kind of get used to it. But it is weird because you don't know what he's looking at.
Well, the other thing that I was, you know, it gives you updates and it gives you things like, you know, when you get a message, when there's a news update or a news alert or something like that, and it actually just, you know, it's you know, it has the ability of notifying you that it's there, and then you can see it. But it's hard to ignore things. I find that with your phone, if I get a text message say from you, Morton, I'm going to ignore it.
Yes.
So yes,
everyone does that.
But if I get a text message, I'm in the middle of doing something, I just don't respond to it. I just, you know, I always have my phone on silent, so it'll just like vibrate my pants and that's it. But you know, with glass, like people can actually hear it. You know, like they say that it's like you can't hear it. Like, yeah, people can actually hear it, and it's much more jarring, I think, when you know you've got this vibrating eyeglasses that that have this speaker that operates through vibration, and it's on your eye. So it's harder to ignore messages and notifications that come in. So, which I think it's much easier to do on a phone.
So, considering that this is still a beta, and they keep saying that they're going to make some sort of other thing that is going to be different when it comes out as an actual product. Do you think that the reason why people are, a lot of the stuff you're talking about now is basically an appearance issue, like for the people you interact with, and then for you it's a distraction issue. So do you think that if they rebuild it into something that is visually less jarring and less weird, like incorporating them into glass in such a way that you don't really see it, would that take away some of the issues, or would that just bring other issues of like, you don't know that I'm using it, but I'm actually using it thing?
I'm just going to speak for myself.
Okay.
If Google had the same exact capabilities, but on a watch, I would buy that in a heartbeat.
Oh, so the Motorola 360 then?
Yes.
Funny how I had that queued up in my browser right now.
Really? Funny that. Yeah. No, I really feel that would be much more what I'd be interested in having. It's something that it isn't a barrier between me and someone that's talking to me. It fits better into like a natural interaction with someone. I don't feel like I've been assimilated by the Borg. and it just I don't know. I mean, I feel that would be more natural. Now, the only thing about the 360 though is I believe it requires a cell phone, correct?
I think they all do. All these devices that are any kind of Android or probably the iOS ones too. Once they come out, will require a phone because they
Well,
need
there
an
was
internet connection, right?
yeah. Well, supposedly Samsung today announced that they're going to have a smartwatch that is a phone.
Oh, Lord Almighty!
So you would
Seriously?
actually put a SIM card in your watch.
And then you talk to your wrist, and you're like,
It's
"What? I can't hear you. What? What? What?"
it's very very like get smart.
Crazy
So
type of thing, right?
I'm just thinking, wasn't there? I remember a while ago someone was saying that they were making a phone that was basically like you're supposed to wear it on your wrist, and then it would do the same thing with shaking the bones, so that you could like talk in your hand. And all I could imagine was people like walking around like, "Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? What? What? I'm sorry. I don't. What? I'm not sure. What? What? What?" And then they would like eventually just jam the phone against their head so that they
so
could hear what was going on. So you'd walk
so
around.
then it will change from crazy or Bluetooth to crazy or bone inducting microphone.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's kind of where I'm thinking it's going, which would be very funny to watch, but I'm not sure that would be because I'm already seeing some people that wear those Samsung watches that you can talk to,
Hmm.
and it is so bizarre when you see people walking around and then they're like, "Oh,"
But the other thing, the Samsung watches, they're so big. I mean, I'm not the largest man on the planet, but I put one of them on, and I'm just like, it's just so big.
uh-huh.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're way too large. And the other thing is, I just don't see people, using them as exactly for making calls. Like that's just ridiculous. Especially if they have to be tied to a phone, then you should really just pick up your phone and actually, use that when you're trying to call somebody because you look like an idiot.
Now, I will say though, if you have some earbuds with a microphone or something like that, then
There you go.
it's your
Yeah,
watch. Then I can see that.
and then you have earbuds that are connected to your hand with a wire, and then you can just put them inside your jacket, and then you have a little microphone in your hand, and then you put on a suit and glasses, and then cut your hair really short, and then you can walk around, and then everyone will think you're CIA, which is basically what you are. So yeah. So okay? So you said that you'd rather have it in a watch. Does that mean that when they roll out watches for Android devices, you'd buy them, or when you say you want a watch, you want a Windows watch?
Oh, here we go.
I'm buying the Mac watch, so.
Yeah.
I have
Fair
like,
question.
when Apple comes out with a really incredible watch, will you buy it? Or would you wait for the Windows version?
To me, it's I don't know.
This is so
Did
tough
we
for
touch
Doug.
on some sort of
God.
terrible topic for you or something? What the hell is going
You're
on?
like, why are you crying? The thing though is like I'm so. Here's an interesting question. Do you make hardware hardware purchasing decisions based on the ecosystem that you already have invested in?
Uh-huh.
Yes. Oftentimes, yes. Like that's why I have like Apple TVs, and I won't buy something else because I've already invested so much money on movies and stuff. So.
Right. So would I buy an iWatch? Probably not,
Right.
because I don't have iTunes Match. I don't use iCloud. I don't use a Mac.
Right.
I don't have an iPad, or I do have an iPad, but I don't use it. I do have an Xbox. I do have Xbox Music. I do have a Windows Phone, and I do have a Surface, and I do have a laptop with Windows 8. So that would be why I would buy
You're like
that.
a walking Microsoft dream, man. They love you.
They do love me. They do love me because I buy all of it. But yeah, I mean, that was why even when I was using the Google Glass, it was just like, it didn't really. I had to convert all of my Outlook.com contacts into Gmail. I then had, and then in Gmail, I wasn't able to reference my Outlook.com calendars. I had to import them in. So, I basically had to switch everything over in order for the device to be as it was designed. Which makes sense. It is their product. But yeah, that was the.
So switch gears for a second here. The like while you were away, a lot of things happened in the Microsoft world, including the release of Cortana. I don't know how to say her name. The what's her Siri killer that Microsoft rolled out.
Cortana.
Cortana. Have you used Cortana? Is it part of your process now?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Clearly, she has trouble with my accent, as every other voice recognition thing does.
So I installed Windows Phone 8.1 on both my 1020 and my 1520. This is my 1520 that I've kind of using now as my daily phone. I have Cortana. I don't like. Oh, thanks for the Twitter mention, by the way. That's nice. So I use Cortana only to do things. I've used it a few times to say, remind me to, mostly for reminders, or to schedule a meeting. I've used it successfully to move a meeting. It gets confused when you have multiple calendars.
Oh, so it puts it in the wrong calendar, or?
Well, you make references like move my next appointment out 30 minutes, and then I've got multiple calendars, some of which are mine, some are my husband's. So, she's like, I don't know which one you're talking about. So, I mean, it's been mostly helpful with the reminders. The geo-aware reminders are really nice. So, remind me to pick up the laundry when I'm at home. So it'll know when you're at home, and then remind you to get the laundry.
Right.
And then also the reminders about when I talk to my mom, make sure to ask her when she's coming out to visit me, that kind of thing. That's pretty cool. Beyond that, though, it's just basically what I would do just in any kind of web search, searching for a business, a restaurant, whatever. So. Right.
Ray, you're all iOS. So do you use Siri?
Oh, totally. Yeah, it has, I think, limited usability sometimes, but definitely to set my alarms to tell myself when I park a car, hey, I got only 2 hours before I gotta come pick this thing up and move it. That I do on a daily basis. Anything more complex than that, Siri it's not. I don't know. It doesn't understand Spanglish, I guess, and it kind of makes me mad. Not so good in my accent. I'm like you, Morton.
Yeah, our horrible accents confuse computers. I know that my phone can do most of this stuff with Google Now. I just keep forgetting. So it's always like anytime I discover it, I'm like, whoa, I can totally do this. My experience with this is more other people using it, because I have a friend who keeps emailing me using Siri. That is truly spectacularly absurd, because she not only does she do that, but she does not check what she's sending. So it's like sometimes just complete rubbish, or things that you're like, I don't know what you were trying to say, but it's certainly not what you sent me, because this sounds really bad. And she's like no, I do all my dictation in the car, and she just sends emails.
I've actually found that I've done that before, because I hate typing on the phone, because I'm not very good with my thumbs, and when I'm texting, I'm really horrible at it, and my wife loves to text me. So I always just turn on Siri and then just talk into it. And it works pretty well, but like you said, sometimes, especially what really happens to me is when I have it in the wrong language, I'll have it in Spanish and I'll try to be talking to it in English or either way, and then it really goes nuts.
Can I just call out something that seems a little absurd? I'm going to speak to Siri to text something that is then converted into text. Why don't I just call the person and then just tell them in my own voice what I want to tell them?
You need to speak to my wife, because that's the problem. I'm like, why don't you just call me? Why do I have to reply to you in text? It doesn't make any sense. But she does it. She loves texting, so. That's the
So
thing.
I like texting as well, but I actually type it.
Yeah. Way back in like the late 90s, early 2000s, when texting became huge in Europe, I remember there was like a shift in how people communicated because when you had the SMS, the smart thing about it was that I could send a message to someone and then they would get it whenever they had time to respond to it. So I wouldn't like bug someone in a meeting or in class or anything like that. It would be like, I'll send a message and then you'll check your phone. But this was before the phones became this thing you looked at all the time. So it was literally like you'd walk around and then you'd take up your phone and be like, oh, someone sent me a message. Meet me at whatever. And then you'd be like, okay, I'll send it back. I am not there. And then you'd have this kind of baseline communication that wouldn't require the other person to be available right then and there. I think the problem now is that people are so aware of their devices that when you send a message, they get it right away. And that defeats the purpose of having this delayed conversation. So it's true. When you're like, if you're talking to your phone to get your phone to write out a text message, and then the person you're talking to immediately responds to you, then you're basically just having a proxy conversation through a computer for no apparent reason. Unless you're doing like a
I think there are times though where that's okay though. Like if I'm watching television, I can still text with someone while I'm in the background watching TV.
But then you're not watching TV. That's what my wife does this all the time, and it actually
I'm not necessarily always like intently. Like sometimes the TV is just there just to have something going on in the background, or I'm like doing some coding or something like that, and talking on the phone would not work with that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna love me for this, but like she does this all the time now. We'll watch something, and she wants to watch, and then she'll like sit there and chat with someone, and then she keeps going, "What would happen? What would?" And I'm like, "Why don't you just watch the show instead of chatting with some random person, and then ask me to reiterate what just happened on TV right in front of you, so you can have a conversation about pie on like." Because we have a group that's called Gluttony on Hangouts, where there's a group of us that talk about what we eat. I'm not really part of that group. I don't really talk about what I eat, but there's a group of people that keep talking about what they eat and take pictures of it all the time. So they're like, oh, I need to stop watching what I'm doing to see a photo of this thing. And right now there's this big battle inside the group about whether or not mason jars are acceptable drink receptacles for restaurants.
They are in the South.
If James was here, he'd say absolutely.
Right on.
Well,
I know this because I am an alien living in the South. So.
But see, when you're in Vancouver and you have a mason jar, it's not because you're a southern whatever. It's because you're a hipster.
Mm-hmm.
And here it's like, you have your mason jar full of your kombucha or whatever the hell that sludge thing they drink is called, and you're like, it's a different thing. It's not because, oh, conveniently there was a mason jar here. It was, oh, let's buy this $200 custom hipster mason jar to drink water that's been strained through a filter made out of grass because that makes it healthier. Crap like that. All right. One more thing, Doug, before we move on to other things. Are you going to buy the Surface Pro 3?
Already have.
Already have. How is that possible? It's not even out yet. Oh, you pre-ordered it.
Pre-ordered it, yeah.
It's so expensive.
Yes, but it's just as expensive as a laptop that I would have ordinarily have gotten anyway. So I got the i7 with 256 gigs of SSD.
Yeah, and then plus keyboard.
Yeah, plus the keyboard.
Does it come with a pen now?
Does it come with what?
Does it come with a pen, or is that extra?
That comes with a pen.
Oh, you have to buy the keyboard.
Yes, ultimately it'll all come out to I think about $2,000.
Yeah, see that's my issue because the laptop I bought, the Acer one that has the same specs, cost $1,200, and magically it has a keyboard on it.
I know, right?
Like a thing, and it's about the same thickness and weight. Well, it's probably a little bit weightier, but not much. So, because I really want the Surface for the pen.
Mm-hmm.
But the $1,500 sticker price on the i7 and the addition of the keyboard makes it unacceptably expensive to me compared to similar ones. But I do think this version is the one that they should market to designers and photographers.
I think so. I think they did the right choice of working with Adobe to get the Photoshop CC tied into the new pen and stuff. So yeah, I agree with you because I think with the it's basically if the other option is I could buy a computer and a Cintiq, which this is actually a C-Tank into the actual device. And actually, Wacom, they actually sell a Wacom tablet that you can get with Windows, and it's priced almost identically.
Yeah, I have to look at that when it actually comes into a store so I can see. Maybe I have to buy.
I have to say that I have seen people use the Windows tablets, and they really enjoy them very much. They really enjoy being able to use what they call, and they all do this, they call it a real computer as opposed to a tablet. And they seem extremely happy with it, so I'm very, I feel good about that platform. And I guess what exactly is sort of the different thing? You mentioned a pen with this,
right,
like is that I don't buy that.
Right, I love how you said, I hear other people are very happy with it. What about you?
No, it's not the thing for me. Like, really, a pen? That just doesn't seem like.
Well, think about it. Okay, so here's my the case
I
made for
that. They're staking their future on a pen and a ruler. So
I made the case for Surface Pro when it was first announced way back like 2 or 3 years ago, when they originally did a demo with Lightroom. And it's funny that they did a demo with Lightroom because Lightroom didn't work on the original model. And then it kind of works, like the Surface Pro 2 was okay, and then it's only this one that has like the power to actually do this properly. But just imagine the following scenario. A photographer goes out to do a professional photo shoot. Right now, what they would do is they would shoot, and then they would either tether to a computer, so like have a laptop, or they would tether to their iOS device, so their iPad or something like that. And they would show previews to the model or whoever they're shooting and say, like, this is what it looks like. With the Surface Pro, you can tether your professional camera or whatever camera you're using to a computer that can run Lightroom. You can then take out your pen and do crash edits on your content in Photoshop or Lightroom in detail without having to like do a trackball or a mouse and sit there and use the trackpad to get it to work. And because you have a pen, you have complete detail control over every spot. It also means that, in my imagined scenario of using this, if I was working with a client on a website, it has that layering capability where you can take like any screen and then just draw on top of it and then save the screenshot with drawings on it. So I could go to a client and say, okay, this is what the website looks like right now, and then sit there and actually sketch on the website itself what I want to change and write notes and everything just like I would on a piece of paper and save it for myself. And though that sounds like trivial and nonsensical, it's actually something that I always wanted to do. So much, in fact, that I invented the Surface in 2002, and I have drawings to prove it. I actually drew a laptop with a detached keyboard, or a keyboard where you could flip the laptop like this, that had 10-point touch and a pen. And I described like all these software things and applications you could use, and it's all documented and dated in 2002. So someone owes me money.
I have to tell you a story. I have to share a story with you, and I think it'll explain the problem with this approach that you have. And have you shot tethered before? Because I have. Yeah. Like I've done photo shoots tethered, right? And as you know, it's a very slow process. Like you can't shoot extremely high resolution because the amount of time it takes for the data to go from the camera to the device is unacceptable. So when you're shooting, a lot of times you're shooting in rapid succession, right? Yep. Because it's a photo shoot, you want to get lots of photos, you want to get poses and stuff like that. So my story is this: there's a tree in my property, and it's sitting right over there. And I used to dream all the time that the best thing in the world would be to go take my laptop and walk over to that tree and do my work, kind of recline against that tree. And I didn't have the right network for the longest time, and I'm like, planning one day I'll be able to just chill out by the tree and have a good time. It'll be awesome. Okay, so one day I got a new router, and my signal was powerful enough so that I could actually get to the tree with my laptop, no problem. And I actually did it. And it was like the worst experience ever. It was hot. It's humid in Florida. The tree is shockingly uncomfortable. You know, have you ever tried to sit down on a tree? They're not soft. I thought, of course, the thing was going to be made out of, like, rubber or something. I guess maybe that would be better.
Hey, Morton, I think Ray's going into crazy old man territory.
I don't know where you're going with this. Oh, no, I know exactly where you're going with this, but this is a terrible analogy.
The dream and the experience. The dream is that this would be productive, but in reality, I've shot tethered, and I've had to stop because two things happen. One, this whole process of the photo just takes a long time, and so you end up shooting in low res so that you can get it to the computer quick and you can get an idea if the lighting and the setup is correct. So, but you can't really shoot at the resolution that you want. So when you actually go through shooting, you actually switch over to like a high resolution and you turn off the tethering because you're done, you know, doing the setup. You know, so it just doesn't really work in reality. I don't know. What do you think?
I can make it work. I'll show you how. So this is a picture I took yesterday with my Fuji EX1 tethered to my phone using an iFi card, and then I edited the photo on my phone using like whatever editing capabilities my phone have, and posted it onto Instagram, and it took like all of 2 minutes. The one thing I wanted was for that, like what I wanted was for the photo to be in RAW on my computer so that I could edit it in real time without having my stupid computer. Because I had my computer, but I was like, I'm not going to fire up everything to just make this work. But if I had just like something where I could just draw on it instead of sitting there and mucking around with my keyboard and doing all that stuff, I would totally do it that way instead. So I think it just has to do with the process. I know a lot of photographers who shoot tethered all the time and do live editing on the fly, but they're all frustrated because they have to use their pads or a mouse or something to get it to work, and they have like Cintiq, and then they have a ridiculous rig where they have like the computer propped up and then the Cintiq underneath, and then they draw on it, and it's a very complex process. Where if you had the computer that had it all just built in, and it was like light and portable and big enough, which is also a new thing with that additional inch makes a huge difference because the other one was too small, then all of a sudden you have a workable solution. It's not the perfect solution, but it's a workable solution.
So I'm just letting you know the other issue that I ran into when I did tethering is what happens when you take a photo and you're chimping or you show somebody the photo. Like if you show the model the photo, if you're taking a photo of, say, not a professional model, but say like a CEO, like a person, and they see the photo, they immediately think that they need to tell you whether or not you're approved, you know, to use that photo, because people, when they see themselves, they go, oh, I don't like that photo. You know, that happens all the time. So this is another issue that I have with that process, that if you're tethered, they tend to want to come see what's happening with the photo, and then you lose productivity. Because
that's a work process problem, though. That's not directly related to the hardware. I think this is ingenious. I think everyone should get it. So, Ray, you went to...
I definitely, you know, I would say this. If it was fast enough so that you could... The only thing I want is I want to take a photo and immediately see it on some sort of device so that I could see it on a big screen, because on the little camera, no matter how big they make those, the little preview LCDs are ridiculously small. They don't show you anything useful. Yeah. So that if they fix that sort of latency problem, then it would be extremely useful. But I don't know if I would edit, and I don't know if I would want to like show it to somebody, because then it takes them out of the, no, you're supposed to be looking good now, not looking at this photo that I'm taking. So
now I have to get one to show you the process I'm thinking. So when are you getting yours then, Doug? Like, what's the backlog on this?
August.
August. See, that's what they mess up on, the Microsoft people. They go like, here's a new product. You cannot have it. I mean, Apple did that with one product, the trash can that they're selling, and it bugged the hell out of people. Microsoft has like a system for that. Mm-hmm. Everything is like, here's a new thing that we are not releasing right now that you can pre-order and then talk about for 6 months until something better comes along, but then you already paid for the new thing, so then you get the new thing when the other...
I think Apple lets sort of a couple of rumors slip by, and that's the same. It does the same effect.
But do you
think, the watch.
Do you think that the mini thing, because they said in an interview that they had a mini device and then they chose to pull it.
I
right
actually,
before-
I have no idea, but I would actually imagine that they probably have a warehouse full of them.
Yeah, because I saw something today. It flipped past on social media and I lost it. But I saw somewhere that someone was mentioning that they might be releasing the mini in combination with some sort of software.
Well,
Specifically
there have been a couple of thoughts about that. That it was going to have a Snapdragon processor instead of the NVIDIA Tegra processor, which is what the Surface 2 has.
uh
That it was going to have a pen similar to the one that's on the Surface Pro 3, but they were delaying it until the touch-friendly version of Office was released.
oh, which is going to be never, right?
Well, they're working on it. They showed more of it at Build, but I was actually really disappointed because, so this year they showed PowerPoint. Last year they showed PowerPoint. This year they're like they imported a photo and they're like dragging the photo around the screen and they're saying like, look at its amazing performance. And I'm like, you're dragging a photo around the frickin' screen, okay? Show me something that, I was really disappointed with their. I'm like, just ship the damn thing, I don't know, whatever. Sorry. Anyway.
You sound like you're in such a good mood today.
No, it's just, it's.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I wonder what's better.
It's frustrating. It's very, very frustrating.
Like if it's better for them not to like leak a couple of rumors like Apple normally does and then just kind of release it whenever they feel like it, or if it's better to actually, say that you're going to do something and then never do it.
All right. So you want. All right. So let's. All right. So let me bash on Apple then. Do you feel, Ray? And I'm not bashing, but it's just something that's been going around. Do you feel that Apple is so scared that they can't innovate anymore that's why they're buying Beats Electronics?
Oh, yes.
I still don't believe that they're doing that for some reason. Now I'm starting to change my mind about it because I hear about it so much, but I don't know what that is about. That's a really odd move to me. But I don't know, and I think that they can't innovate. I think that they're very capable of doing it. I don't think that Steve Jobs was necessarily the innovator. I think he kind of was a filter in a lot of ways, where he prevented things from appearing if he didn't think they were great enough. So I definitely think they can innovate. It's just that, for example, you talked about the Mac Mini, Morton. I think that he wasn't around to be the right filter to say, this is crap, we're not releasing it yet, we need to fix this, this, and this, and this. I think that's probably what happened with that device. So, but I honestly, I still don't get the whole Beats thing. I don't know why they felt like they needed to do that. So.
Morton?
I have theories. I think I think the Beats acquisition is a culture acquisition. It gives them access to a market that they don't have access to right now, because the people who buy Beats, they're more into the hip hop culture. There's an entire subgroup of the North American community that is more attuned with the Beats brand than the Apple brand. There's also it's also way more edgy than anything else. Like they target a group that's music focused, not computer focused. It's I'm wearing this because it says something about me, rather than I'm wearing it because it's the next thing that Apple said that I should wear, and it's all obviously the best solution. And to be honest, the Beats noise canceling is amazing, and it doesn't cost as much as the Bose noise canceling. So you basically only have two options for the noise canceling. You either get the Bose, which looks really like something you would wear in a plane, right? And you're a corporate guy, or you buy the Beats one, which actually looks really neat and does just as good a job, and it costs marginally less. It's not much, but I think there's for the most expensive one, there's $50 difference, and you get the same performance. Because as I told, I think I talked to Ray about this off air one time, that if you go to Best Buy and you put the Beats headset on, and then turn on the noise canceling, and then you bring a friend and you have your friend talk to you, you actually can't hear what that person's saying if they're yelling at you. You're completely shut off from the world when you wear those, which is also an
Meanwhile, your
excellent
friend is
reason for
telling
not
you the
wearing them while
building's
you're
on
biking.
fire and to run away.
Well, yeah, you should not wear it if you're out riding your bike or jogging, because you become unaware of what's going on around you. But the noise canceling capability there is fantastic, and I think that a lot of people hate the earbuds that Apple shipped. So this would be a simple way of solving the problem. Just co-opt something else and stuff it in your ears. Done. That's my thoughts on that.
My turn. I think that Apple is really struggling right now with trying to figure out the purchasing dynamics as they've been going into more consumer hardware. Because of the structure of mobile contracts in the United States, they basically had a guaranteed every 2 years you're going to buy a new iPhone. And they actually, I think, have built it into their plan where they expect that someone that has bought an iPhone 4 won't buy an iPhone 4S, but will buy an iPhone 5. People that bought a 4S didn't buy 5, but are going to buy a 5S. iPads is a different story, and the fact that they missed their iPad shipments by, I believe it was almost 10 million units. Really hit their earnings per estimate and also the analyst projections for what they're going to be able to do later in the year. But with that, I think that as they're kind of doing more of this consumer hardware, the diversification of what they have to do in consumer hardware needs to go beyond just something with a processor.
Right.
So I could see that's why something about headphones, and someone made the comment that headphones were the first wearable. That the Beats actually has a manufacturing process to build wearable electronics already, just because they make headphones.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would say is I actually disagree with you, Morton, in that they're actually targeting different audiences. Everyone that I've seen well, I may make it that too much of an hyperbole. Usually when I see when I see someone with a Beats headphone that's connected to a phone, it's connected to an iPhone. So I feel that the market for Beats headphones is very much overlapping with the market for an iPhone. However, I do feel that the purchasing dynamics of how people actually buy the music they put onto those phones has radically changed. And the people that are on their iPhone with a Beats headphone attached to it, more often than not, I would venture to guess that they're listening to Rdio or Spotify than to albums that they've purchased on the iTunes store. Okay,
so just let me interject there. Part of my point of the cultural acquisition is that Beats has its own music network. That targets a completely separate audience from what...
Right, they have Beats Music. You're talking about Beats Music, the streaming service?
Yeah.
Yes, it has 200,000 subscribers, and it's growing very slowly. But what I think it does, and there was actually an article about this, I think it was on Mashable or Engadget or something like that, that was talking about how Beats streaming service actually provides a way out of the iTunes model, in which Apple does not have to renegotiate their agreements with the record labels if they just acquire and expand an existing streaming service. iTunes Radio is... my husband, he recently just got an iPad, and we migrated his entire library over to iTunes Match, and we started using iRadio, and I was very disappointed with it. I didn't really feel that it did anything for music discovery, and it just seemed extremely limited and more like a toy. It seemed more like the Genius playlist just put on a crack.
Right.
And he was very much like, how do I discover new music? And he was like trying to do that, and he couldn't figure out how to do it. And I said, you need to use Spotify. That's how you're going to find the new music. And he's like, why do I have to leave iTunes? I'm like, well, that's just kind of how it's done now. So, but I think that if Beats is able to add that capability of the streaming service on top of what iTunes already does to purchase, that might be something there. So I think there are many reasons why they're doing it. I don't necessarily feel that all three of those reasons create a perfect jigsaw puzzle, but I think it's a lot to help them.
So I'm sure you've seen this, right? The comic that was circulating the week after that people started talking about it. Let's see, here it is. The reasons why, like, I think it's like it starts at $59, and then Dr. Dre comes and sticks this B on it, and then it's $2.99, and then Apple paints it white. And you notice it doesn't even change, and then it's $6.99.
Very cool.
I think that's there is some truth to that, although we'll have to wait and see what actually happens. But it's going to be an interesting thing to see if they roll it out or not. I can't tell. Is this actually happening or not? Because I keep hearing yes and no, and it's unclear.
Apple hasn't officially made an announcement, but all indicators, including tweets from Dr. Dre himself, are indicating that this has happened or is about to happen.
So
Yeah, that's why I like almost believe it, but I don't know. It just seems like so. Well, I mean, what seems very unlike Apple is that anybody's talking about it before it's actually a real thing, which is probably because of Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
Spilling.
I made a deal with someone who's not as concerned about talking about things beforehand.
But is that something that Apple just has to generically change? Do they have to give up this crazy secretive thing that they've got going on?
They probably should. It doesn't seem to work all that well. I say that because all the stuff that's secret ends up being published beforehand, and then because of the expectation that the rumors are not true, and then when it gets released, there's something wow factor in it. Basically got ruined with the iPhone 5. Everyone knew exactly what that was when it came out. So the entire, oh, this is so different, was non-existent. And they kind of lost
that's part of the plan. You're missing the genius of Apple marketing. It's their plan to leak things out so that when it comes out, people aren't as sort of like upset about it. Anyway, that's just my theory.
What? That makes no sense. That's opposite of what they were trying to do.
But
they leak it out to a couple of people. New York Times, Walt Mossberg.
Gruber.
Gruber.
Sorry, did I say that?
Dr. Dre. And then they do sort of the the QA or whatever. The thing that Google's doing right now with Glass, Apple's doing by just some careful leaks.
Yeah.
Letting people talk about it,
I don't know. There have been, and I'm saying this as a completely objective point of view in the statement. Apple's sales have not been what they have been in the past.
Well, Google's
because they haven't really
valuable brand, right?
Well, so the iPad Mini Retina has been considered a flop, mostly from pricing strategy.
Mm-hmm.
iPad Air is considered a stronger product, but it is not selling as well because it lacks differentiation from the previous 2 generations of the product. And the iPhone 5C has been considered a flop because it's essentially a plastic version of the last generation of the phone.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen anyone using it.
I've seen people with that.
I think of a single person I've seen using that phone.
So, and it's not from lack of attempt to do advertising. I see it advertised on every freaking billboard in the city. But I think that from a competitive standpoint, Samsung, Nokia, Motorola, HTC, they now have products that rival on features, ecosystem, and capabilities that weren't there before.
Yeah. So what you're saying is the sinking ship is now sinking in such a way that people can actually see it.
Oh my gosh, you guys are nuts.
I didn't say that it was a sinking ship. I'm saying that they're having a reduction in shipments of products.
I think they're doing just fine. I think you guys are overestimating the the fact that, I mean, they just haven't had a lot of new products, which I think is their big problem, and that is an issue. They haven't really released things like they used to, and I think they're just taking longer than they used to. Again, I think it's because they don't have Steve Jobs, who used to be both a filter and then also a catalyst to make things happen. He would just sort of, in my dream, I just see like Steve Jobs screaming at people until they get something done, and he hasn't been around to do that. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, people have been saying that about Steve Ballmer, that he had the opposite effect.
Oh,
but we have to actually remember that the Surface Pro 3, Office for iPad, Office 365, those products that are now actually doing very well were approved by him years ago.
Yeah.
So it's the legacy of a CEO can work in two different directions. It can work in, oh my God, the company's screwed without this person, or we can finally get past, being blocked by this person. But then when you actually look back, you say like there's a lot of things. It's the same thing happens with presidents.
Mm-hmm.
A president that is benefiting from a good economy oftentimes is benefiting from the policies of the previous administration.
Yeah. I wonder, though, because I think part of the problem that Apple has is people still, like the mythology built around Steve Jobs is still very much alive. You still see, quotes from Steve Jobs all over the place. Everyone is always focused on that. And I think that they haven't been able to kind of separate themselves from the brand of Steve Jobs, even like 2 years after he passed away. And at some point they need to kind of say, we're bigger than the person that is no longer here. Because if people keep tying the brand to a specific person and that person is not there anymore, then it'll get stale on its own. It's just simply like it's a bit of a branding concern.
Is that one of the driving factors for Beats?
Probably.
I mean,
I think that
Tim Cook was I believe that Tim Cook has been an amazing. Before he became CEO, he was Chief Operating Officer, managing process and product pipelines and things like that. I think he did an amazing job. He's just I don't find him as a inspiring or captivating CEO.
So what is it called? Worldwide
WWDC.
WWDC. Do you think that that's where it's going to happen? They're going to like bring in our new CEO, Dr. Dre. Oh, that other guy that no one knows who is.
The producer.
Our creative director, Dr. Dre.
That worked really well for BlackBerry with Alicia Keys.
Yeah. And then we have because there's the other guy in Beats, right? Who everyone is saying is actually the brains.
Yeah, he's the record producer that actually.
Yeah. So do you think that that's gonna happen at the conference? That's the big thing, because they keep saying there's something big, although they did that last year and there was nothing. So
I think that there's going to be. I could see how when you look at their product line, just kind of the way that they're kind of doing. The rumor is also about a 12-inch iPad that would be actually called the iPad Pro.
Like the Surface Pro.
Like the Surface Pro. Funny that. That will actually have multitasking capabilities in iOS 8.
It's going to be the Maxi Pad.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's like a horrible joke.
I think the differentiation between a consumer line and a professional line might start to emerge if they do decide to have, someone from Beats actually manage consumer products.
Right.
I can guarantee you they're not going to call it the iPad Pro just because the other one's called the Surface Pro. They would never.
Yeah.
But they already have the MacBook Pro.
That's
the Mac Pro.
I don't.
Just saying.
It would be a marketing.
Okay, maybe you're right.
I'm gonna say.
I was gonna bet something, but I'm like, oh, maybe I'll lose. Like eat my hat or something.
Purpose of betting, man. You have to risk it. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. It's in a few weeks. So we'll
I bet someone $100 that the Sharks weren't going to make it into the playoffs this year. I should have bet that they weren't going to make it into the second round of the playoffs, and I would have won that. But
Well, you're talking about some sort of stick-based ice puck-type game now, right?
I believe so. Yes, that is correct.
Yes. That's So before we wrap up, I actually want to show you guys something that got published today. I think it's been around for a while, but I only noticed it today, so therefore it only started existing today. That's how it works. Where's my window here? Okay, so I found, or someone found this.
I'm just all curious now.
This is it's a website called Oozled.
Oh God, these names! Oh my God!
I don't know what's wrong with our community, but the obsession with terrible names for things is clearly out of control. Anyway,
Oozled. Okay.
so
The ridiculously
Oozled-
tiny logo.
Oozled is a curated resource for everything design related. And what it is a crapload of groups of categories of tools. Like typography, you go in and you see a list of typography foundries and catalogs and everything. And it lists whether they're free or for pay, and if they're for pay, you see the price of them. So this isn't as much a curated list of like articles you can read. It's a curated list of actual tools and resources.
Stuff. Yeah.
So, like if you go to CMS, you get every possible CMS anyone could think of, and you get kind of a breakdown of if they cost money and what they do, and because WordPress is W, it's all the way at the end. If you go to, I think there's one called it's not education. It is where is it? It was kind of a weird name. Payment solutions, inspiration, online tuition. Under online tuition, you find things like lynda.com somewhere.
Online tuition. What the hell is? What kind of a
Yeah,
nomenclature is
lynda.com in
that?
black. But I think that this is a really interesting place to go for people who are working in the web industry, because if you are now saying, hey, I need a framework, you can actually go here and get a list of every single framework, right? There's 13 frameworks that are provided here, so you can just grab whatever framework you want and go check them out, and you are guaranteed to find something in here that you haven't seen before.
Mhm.
And it's an open system, so you can submit your own stuff to it, and then it gets curated, so check to make sure it's not just garbage before it gets put on. So I think that this type of tool can actually be great for people who are looking to learn new things, or just generally want more information about something. So that's what I found. I was like, oh, that's
It's
neat.
kind of like and essentially it's kind of like a Pinterest pinboard for tech stuff beyond the images.
Yeah, and specifically the design-related things. And I like that it's not opinionated. It doesn't have a review on it or a list of what is the best to worst or anything like that. Instead, it's just, here are a bunch of them. We've organized them alphabetically for you. So you can,
Presented to you from a podcast where all three of us have very strong opinions about things.
Yes. Sometimes you need the unopinionated version of things too. But I was looking through there. I was looking for. I just clicked on some random things and actually found stuff I haven't heard of before.
Mhm.
And that's. I spend a lot of time surfing for stuff online. So when I haven't heard about it, it means that it's either well hidden or I'm not well researched. Probably both. But it's a neat resource. I think it's cool. I like to see more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. I'm gonna check it out, because a lot of times you're trying to, think about maybe what framework you would use, or what platform you're going to use for deploying something. So that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it's neat, and it also gives you a good example of how not to use or how to use the triple bar, the hamburger. You'll notice that the hamburger that's implemented here has the word menu next to it, so that it's clear that the triple bar is a menu and not just
So
a logo.
someone I know recently had an iPad app that has all of their blood work from their medical tests that they get on their physical every single year, and they were told, they called the doctor's office because they needed to have the blood work reviewed. And they said, well, there's a message for it on the online portal. And they said, okay, where is it? It's in the portal. Well, can I talk to the doctor? No, you have to message him through the portal.
Oh, that's nice.
He goes to the portal, presses inbox, it's blank, there's nothing there. There's this little text on the left that says inbox, not underlined, no button, And I looked at it, and I'm like, let me press that. And out slides this inbox with like 4 messages with like red exclamation points, like important, important, important.
Oh no. That's a terrible UX
He
designer.
was so pissed off, like furiously pissed off.
There wasn't even like a number alert or anything like that?
Nothing.
What?
I'm like, that's when user experience problems become
Some
deadly.
purist designer wanted to make that so clean that the person would not find out anything important.
No UI. Cause of death.
Yeah,
Like-
I know, man.
That's terrible. That's actually a very good example of poor design decisions.
Well, it was strange because I so I was asked later, like, how did you know that was how that was working there? And I said, well, it looked a little bit like it was on an iPad, and I said it was a little bit like the Mail app when you hold it in portrait mode, how the sidebar disappears. I then took that app, rotated it landscape, and it appeared out on the side. And he was like, how was I supposed to know that? How was I supposed to know that? And they're assuming that you've worked with these kind of apps before.
Yeah. That's I was talking to someone just developing an app, and it was a rather complicated app, and it had a tutorial in the very beginning. So when you started it up for the first time, you got like a walkthrough, and once you did the walkthrough, you're like, oh, this makes perfect sense. And then I asked her, so what if I give this to someone else? Like, what if I hand this off to someone else? Will that other person be able to figure this out? So I just did. I just gave it to someone else, and like, I don't know what the hell, right? And I'm like, how do you trigger the tutorial to come back? And you couldn't. So the assumption that people intuitively figure things out is a very good example of that ass out of you and me moniker.
Well, the thing is, like, a lot of times when I buy a tablet application and like that comes up, I'm like, oh, I don't need the instructions, and I like dismiss it.
You do that when you buy IKEA furniture too?
No, not necessarily with IKEA furniture.
And then you're like, what's this?
What is this?
Why do I have a piece left that doesn't...
But I'll dismiss the helpful instructions and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, I'm smart. I'll figure it out. And then I'm like going through it. I'm just like, damn it! How do I get those instructions back? And I can't figure it out.
I think if
so then what I do is I actually uninstall the app and I reinstall it.
Well, you should make things in such a way that you don't need instructions. That's the ideal, right? But because I think if you need to put a layer of instruction on top and you can't use it without, then you really made an app that is not communicating very well. So.
Well, I think it also depends on the breadth of your audience as well. Like if you're doing something that's broadly applicable, to not provide anything, but at the same time not necessarily have empathy and respect for people that are more experienced with software or hardware, right. That just becomes, it sounds like you're patronizing and you're not respecting them.
Right. All right. Well, we are over time, so I have to cut it short right here. I have stuff to do later today. Thank you both for joining me.
Thank you.
This was a fun conversation. So Doug doesn't actually have his glass anymore, so we have to like get Doug with glass because I actually want to see if we can see what happens in the screen.
I think I'll be able to get it back in a week or so, and then I'll have it for a little bit. So.
And then figure out how you can hook it up so that we can actually see in this podcast what you see. So we can make like this horrible Inception moment of like you watching yourself, watching yourself, watching yourself.
I can totally do that. I just have to join the Hangout twice.
Yeah, and we should do that so that we can see.
Oh no, they disabled that feature in the latest edition because it didn't work for. It was just crap. So yeah, it was funny when I was actually recording the course, I could never get it to work, and then they cut the feature. I'm like, oh great.
That's the best thing about recording courses when they go like, no. What you just spent 2 weeks on, we're no longer shipping.
Right.
End of story. And we need to talk to Ray about the conference he went to that he didn't talk about today, too. So we'll do all that next week and other things. In the meantime, thank you all for watching. We'll be back here again next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. Goodbye.